What's poppin', y'all? So Steve Will Do It crash out continues. This guy's been on it for at least 4 to 5 months. But what set this off was Steve Will Do It constantly talking about Nelk for quite a while and Kyle. And Kyle, one of the co-founders of Nelk, and right now like the head face of it, he was doing an interview with the Iced Coffee Hour where they've been getting a lot of crazy clips of people. They're working with some sort of clipping agency or something like that because they weren't this visible before. But he explains the situation on how much money they made, in particular with merch, and this started to trigger Steve Will Do It.
One thing people don't really know too is like, even though those merch numbers were like so high, believe it or not, money in my like specific pocket personally, and like Jesse's as well, because we were the two owners of Nelk, right? Steve wasn't really like, he wasn't an owner of Nelk. He was getting paid out in cash from merch. So the amount of money that me and Jess, as an owner, sometimes you take less cash, right? Because you own the equity.
Yeah.
So you can ask Jesse too. I mean, we weren't personally making a lot off the merch operation because it was money in, and then we had to pay out like a lot of people. And then it was also when we're traveling in Europe, you're bringing 15 people, you're getting an Airbnb every single week. You're spending on flights, videos, like that money goes quick. Maybe some people are suing us for pranks behind the scenes that we like some people during pranks. So everything added up. So even the merch business, as much when it's all said and done, like gross and then minus profit for like goods, shipping, everything like that. Personally, in my bank account, I never really got too rich off merch. Yeah, I kind of used to like manage him more. Like obviously, like when I met him, my promise to him was when I saw who he really was, like, because I saw the drinking and stuff, but when I met him.
So here, Kyle's saying like, yeah, there was a lot of money being generated from the merch, but Kyle himself personally didn't make much from it. And he doesn't say how much was made, but we do get that information as of yesterday. Then he goes on to talk about the relationship with Steve.
Yeah, I kind of used to like manage him more, like obviously, like when I met him, my promise to him was when I saw who he really was, like, because I saw the drinking and stuff, but when I met him and I like fell in love with his personality, I felt like, we were at 2 million subscribers. I kind of had figured out the game. And like my promise to Steve was really just like, bro, like if you trust me, like I feel like I can help make you like rich and like successful. And I think I see something in you, and I think I can help guide you and like make you successful. And I think that was like our mission. And I feel like that's what we did. But he's just a guy. He's just a guy that's like, he's just gonna do whatever the he wants. You know what I'm saying? So I think he has a lot of other people in his ear now too, where it's like everyone wants a piece of him. You know what I'm saying? He's Steve Will Do It. He's the man. So the one thing I can never do with Steve is not be honest with him. I mean, me and Steve are cool. It's not like like the internet likes to make it some like we have beef or something like that. Like I'll see him tonight.
That's what that's what I've seen a lot of the comments.
But no, it's like I think right now we're just kind of on two different paths right now. And I think Steve's like, I don't know, he's doing his thing and he's crushing his YouTube. And like I'm loving his content. I'm watching like every video. I know his editor Alex is killing the edits too. And like I'm happy for him. I think we're just on like two different paths at the moment. I don't know. And I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with content and YouTube too, because I'm getting older. I'm 31. Like I'm trying to figure out like how does this old Nelk Kyle kind of continue, and what's my next chapter, because I'm not really drinking and partying like I used to too.
So here, this is a very important note to make. Nelk already had 2 million subscribers when they found Steve Will Do It. And Steve Will Do It, he's for sure the star. Like when you put Steve Will Do It next to a Kyle, even in their prime, even right now, Steve Will Do It is far more entertaining. Steve Will Do It is an entertainer. Whether you want to see the train wreck, whether you're inspired by him, I guess, to get really, really drunk, whether you find him funny, relatable, like one of your old friends, a number of other things, he he is entertaining and he can hold attention like no other. So he was for sure the star, but you need someone to platform the star for him to be able to shine. And Nelk did that. 2 million subscribers. Like, yeah, he grew Nelk. He helped them a lot, but that's a really important distinction to make. It's not like, oh yeah, you know, he just grew it from the beginning with them, or they were struggling and they were, or not even struggling, or they were like 20K subs or something, and then they skyrocketed after linking up with them. So he helped them out. And on top of that, later on, you can see like he doesn't have a problem with them. He was going to go hang out with them, see him later that day. But then a conversation happens with Bradley Martin, who's a close friend of Steve Will Do It and Nelk, but he's really close with Steve. And Steve starts talking money stuff again.
Just growing full Send and Nelk and everything, having no ownership or involvement.
But didn't you have ownership at one point?
Yeah, dude, and they gave me, said you have 15% for free. And
free's funny because free.
And then you get extra 5%.
Free's also
no. You have 10% for free for what you've done. Okay.
So not free. Free is what you.
But if you invest, $500,000 right now, like we need it by tomorrow, you'll get a free 15% plus an additional 5%, which is 20%. So yeah, did that, sent the money, got nothing out of it. Years later, nothing. Had to threaten them to act. People like to say I'm just, oh, Steve's crazy. No, Steve is fed up.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it, bro. I've been around firsthand, so I've seen it.
So a lot of people were like, damn, this guy got done dirty. Like, you didn't get your equity. You got scammed out of it and 500K. Like, what's up with that? And Nelk, they have to address this. So, or they don't have to address this, but they're a brand and it makes sense for them to address this. So Kyle comes out as the face of the brand right now, and he explains the exact numbers of the merch that he was talking about in the previous podcast with Graham Stephan.
Steve signed a deal with Nelk that clearly outlined how he would get paid for merch, brand deals, appearances, everything. So on Steve's personal merch, he received 70% of the net profits. Nelk's 30% was not pure profit. It covered the design, the production, the fulfillment, inventory, everything that it takes to make a successful merch drop. A 70% creator split while the company manages full operations is a very strong deal. So now let's talk about how much money Steve earned from Nelk. So I'm going to pop up something here. It's a year-by-year breakdown of personal cash earnings for me and Steve. So you can see here from 2019 to 2023 how much I made and how much Steve made each year. Over that stretch, personally, I earned just under $3.5 million. Over that same stretch, Steve earned just over $12 million in cash. And these payments were just from Nelk.
So here we got the exact numbers. And when you look at it, 3.5 million that went to Kyle when he said he didn't really get ultra rich off of the merch. He's correct. So like 3 point something million over 4 or 5 years, 3.4 million for Kyle's earnings. And Kyle made sure, and keep in mind, the reason why 3.4 million over 4 or 5 years is a lot of money, but the way that they were talking about Nelk merch was like, yo, these guys were doing 10 million a merch drop. So you would think like, yo, Kyle must have made like 25 million plus, right? So 3 is significantly less than people thought that he would have made over the 5 years. And then he also talks about how like distribution matters a lot for this merch, production, design costs, all of this other stuff that they were incurring. So he was keeping all of his money inside Nelk too. So Steve was getting paid out all of the money from the merch. And then he also goes on to explain the deals that Steve was getting outside, because Steve was getting a lot of deals. And we're talking those raffle deals, those sponsorships. He was always had a brand deal at this point in time before he got banned on YouTube. He was on a crazy ascension. No pun intended there.
Steve also did outside third-party brand deals independently from Nelk. In our deal, there was a standard 15% management fee for Nelk on these outside deals, but I chose not to enforce that percentage on several major deals. On those deals, Steve kept the full 100% amount. So the reason I earned less than Steve during that time is pretty simple. The money had to stay in Nelk so we could keep shooting videos. Shooting these videos was not cheap. You have the production, the filmers, the editors, the travel. All that required real capital. When we were traveling through Europe with 15 people so we could shoot, edit,
and upload a video every single week, the Airbnbs, the production, the travel, that stuff was not cheap. If the money didn't stay in the company, then these videos would not get made. So as the owner, it was my job and my priority to keep the money in the company and pay the people that made the content possible over taking more money personally.
So here, this makes sense. If they're getting you outside deals, or honestly, even if they had 2 million subs and they brought you on and they're getting a piece of you, it makes sense, right? It's like signing an artist. Like if Don Toliver comes under Travis Scott puts him on Astroworld, he blows up after, and Travis Scott's getting a percentage of whatever Don Toliver brings in, you're probably, and it's 15%, you're like, okay, that makes sense. He put you on. So it makes sense that they're getting a percentage of Steve from these types of deals. And then in this next clip, Kyle talks about the equity situation.
So let's talk about Steve's equity in Nelk. First of all, equity means ownership. It's not monthly pay. Equity becomes valuable as the company grows and eventually sells, goes public, or becomes extremely profitable. It's pretty much a long-term bet on the future of the company. I explained clearly what the equity meant to Steve, and I gave him 10% of the company, and he also chose to invest $500,000 for an additional 5%. At that time, nobody, including me, was taking extra owner payouts. The structure of the company didn't change because Steve became an owner. The money had to stay in the business if we wanted to pay the people that made the content possible so we could keep making videos. I explained to Steve that equity is long-term and it could pay off over time, and it's not immediate cash flow. Over time, Steve made it clear that he preferred immediate cash over holding ownership for a potential long-term outcome. So we returned his $500,000 plus $50,000 in interest. Like I said earlier, there was a 15% management fee on Steve's outside deals to Nelk, and as Steve's business grew, he wanted full independence and no longer wanted to do any type of revenue sharing with Nelk. At his request, we agreed to that structure and he no longer held equity in Nelk. That meant that Nelk would no longer be able to collect 15% on his outside deals and he would no longer have equity in Nelk. The separation agreement formalized that. We both signed it, and today there are no revenue sharing between Nelk.
Now, this is a really good example of revenue share versus equity, and this is something that academics actually went through when he was dealing with Complex. So initially, they were paying them a flat fee to him, Joe Budden, Nadeska, flat fee to show up, and I believe it was $13,000 a month for him and Joe Budden. I don't know about Nadeska. I think he leaked that, but when he was renegotiating, they told him, okay, do you want revenue share or do you want a percentage of equity? Or no, do you want a flat? Actually, they said, do you want a flat fee or do you want a revenue share, like a percentage of profits? And he chose a percentage of profits, and they were just like, hey, we're not really making much profit. So he ended up getting less money than he would have if he just chose the flat fee. And that's even different. Revenue share is different from, well, gross revenue and profit is different from equity. Like equity doesn't even mean you're going to get paid. Like gross revenue, like let's say Nelk made $100K in a month. They were obviously making a lot more, but let's just say $100K a month, and it's a 15% revenue gross revenue share for Steve. He would get $15K a month. But if he owned, and that's 15%. So if he owned 15% of Nelk, he's not getting paid anything that month. Like he would only get paid if Nelk sells or somebody wants to buy his shares, and they may sell, they may not, who knows, right? And these guys were more willing to play the long game, Kyle in this case, and that's why he kept the money inside the business by like hiring more people, paying for more trips, filming videos. You gotta keep in mind, while this was all going on, these guys were demonetized. So they were making $0 on YouTube. So they were like they were running every video damn near at a loss. And that's why like merch helped fund them. And this was a sacrifice that they had to make. And he was not willing to do that. Steve, that is. Like he wanted to get his paper, which is understandable, but that doesn't mean that they did anything wrong. And he even explains like, yeah, we gave you back the amount and we paid you interest on it. So he ended up profiting off of selling the shares that he owned. And he says he's one of the biggest owners of biggest shareholders of Happy Dad, which is really the product that Nelk has. So even though he doesn't have ownership of Nelk, having ownership of Happy Dad at this point in time is worth more than having ownership of Nelk. And then SteveWillDoIt's response is something emotional, damn near a crash out with no logic behind it, and says, I'm watching this at the Full Send Metacard lounge right now smoking a cigar. Gonna hit the Metacard gym after. So Full Send Metacard was this, when the whole NFT craze was going on in 2021, everyone was trying to take advantage of it. Full Send, Nelk, they ended up doing one of their own. And of course, the value dropped and it became a whole controversy. And the fact that Steve tweeted about this, number one, shows that he didn't refute anything that Kyle said. So it's unlikely that Kyle told any lies. But this did get them to respond on the Full Send Metacard account and say the following. When Full Send Metacard launched, we plan to provide holders with benefits such as events, meetups, merch discounts, giveaways, access to the Metacard community, and more. Those benefits were delivered. Many Metacard holders took advantage of program benefits, and holder-only events and real-world experiences took place across multiple cities. Over time, it became apparent that some holders were dissatisfied with in-person events and perks, especially given the global scale of the community. Yeah, I mean, if you bought it and you're somewhere where the event's not being held, you feel like, damn, I wasted money on this thing. But really, the majority of people that bought this, especially at this period of time, they all thought, this is going to go up. I'm going to be able to sell it for more, like greater fool theory. After listening to community feedback, we made the decision to evolve the project. Holders were given two options. They could exchange their card for participation in our next consumer product venture, Board Jerky, or receive a refund plus interest. A 30-day refund period was opened and communicated across official Metacard channels. Some holders chose to participate in Board Jerky, others chose refunds. Millions of dollars were refunded, which I do think is fair. However, there are also some criticisms made from fans and buyers of this that we're going to get into in a moment. We understand not everyone's satisfied, blah, blah, blah. So some people that bought into this had their own reply. One of the fans said the following: I did get refunded with interest. The process was long and it felt like I'd never get it, but I did. I will say they should open the refund or Board Jerky option back up again for 30 more days and make a full announcement across all channels. People waited and waited around for something to happen with this project, and it was just silence for a while. So you can't really blame people for losing attention in the Discord's Twitter group. If Nelk can afford to do it, they should. It helps the brand and the loyal fans that were willing to bet everything on you. And this guy, and I think it says he's a Discord admin for Bradley Martin. I don't know if that's true. I don't know what to believe on the internet, but this is true that people did note that they got their money back. However, that's only if they were following the channels. And after a year and a half, 2-3 years of buying something, I think a lot of people just frankly thought, like, I guess I'm holding the L on this. So when they open the 30-day period and they mention it through the channels, they're hoping that a lot of people don't take either offer and don't even see it, because they're covering their behind, which they didn't have to do. They could have just been like, hey, you know, it is what it is. We delivered on what we said we were going to do. So I do give them credit for refunding a ton of people, because frankly, that's an L on their part. Like, they're losing money doing that. So should they reopen it? I think it would be good for their brand, but I think a lot of people are new to Nelk now from when this even happened, and they don't even know that it happened. So that's something that I think it's contentious, but I just think it shows the immaturity of a SteveWillDoIt, because Kyle is running a business professionally. Like, you see Kyle, people aren't having issues with Kyle. Kyle's not tweaking off on drugs. SteveWillDoIt's drunk. He's spending $7 million on Corinna Koff. Even his close friend Bradley Martin in an interview clip said he's never in his life seen someone spend money like SteveWillDoIt. Even Logan Paul, someone who is really rich himself, asked SteveWillDoIt, he's like, yo, so how are you even making your money? And SteveWillDoIt was about to crash out. And he was like, oh, you know, you disrespected me. Like, he wouldn't even ask me about Happy Dad. No, he's not going to ask you about Happy Dad. Like, even if Happy Dad is doing $1 billion a year and you're getting 15% of that, which it's not, let's be real here. How many people are drinking Happy Dad? Even if it was $150 million that you're getting somehow paid out, I don't even know, you're spending like more than somebody that's making $150 million. Well, $150 million a year, no, that makes sense. But he's not making that much. Let's just be real here. From Happy Dad. So, and Logan Paul is somebody that's in the same industry, and even he's perplexed. Bradley Martin's perplexed, and they're like, yo, where's this money coming from? So the fact that he got asked that isn't crazy, and he never really answers it. He said, oh, they didn't ask me about Happy Dad? So we never get an answer. Meanwhile, Steve's got a gambling addiction, which in this clip with Bradley Martin, he goes in on it.
You're probably the only person that got canceled on a platform that got more rich after.
Only more rich because I'm not like spending it all on YouTube videos.
I see.
I didn't get more rich just because I have one good gambling. That was like me just nonstop winning.
So
Like,
so are there months when you're like in the red ever?
no, because I just never quit.
Because so recently you won like it sounded like $3 million, and you had to pay off debt.
Yeah. So I won like maybe like 5, 6, but then I owed Rubet 2.1. Neil like
You won
6.
5 or 6 million
Yeah,
on slots,
in sports.
sports and slots.
Mhm.
Holy. Curious if there's ever months where you're like, yo, that was really bad.
No, and there's months where it gets really dark for sure. Like where you just lose everything and you have all these loans out from people, and but you never give up. You just don't quit.
You're just a true gambler.
Yeah, dude, it always turns around.
So Kyle, I think, handled this maturely. It makes Steve Will Do It look ridiculous. Steve Will Do It's succeeding on YouTube right now. He's killing it. He's enjoying his time on there. But frankly, Steve Will Do It is a crash out. He's a liability. It's like, just look at the guy. He was on some stream with academics and these other guys on Aiden Ross talking about he's got Quaaludes. He's talking about he's got a drinking problem, clearly, got a gambling problem, and got a doesn't know how, when and when not to say things problem. And yes, is he more entertaining than a Kyle? For sure. But if he was the head of Nelk, I don't think it would have survived for this long or gotten as far as it did with the deals that Nelk was able to gather, because Steve Will Do It is just not reliable. Like, he couldn't even show up to an interview with Logan Paul without being drunk out of his mind. And he even said it. He's like, yeah, I drank too much. And what do you mean you drank too much? You've been drinking for 10 years straight. Like, you don't know what's too much or too little? Like, you're not 21 anymore. Like, just drinking for the first time. So I think Kyle handled this very professionally, and I'm saying Steve is in the wrong here. Giving it a buck. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. And I'm going to see y'all in the next one.